except that there was a story in the Sydney Morning Herald by Phil Curry that morning saying that some of Kevin's staff had been out canvassing votes amongst the caucus for Kevin. Julia was particularly upset by this. She'd been a very loyal deputy.
May be saying one thing, but his alleged actions certainly say another thing. So despite publicly declaring that yes, he does have the support of his Labor caucus, he's apparently gone out and sent his chief of staff out to really gauge his popularity within Labor ranks. Now, there's a couple of reasons why he's believed to be doing this. Number one, he doesn't really believe that he's got a firm grasp on his role as Prime Minister. He also doesn't believe he does have the support of his MPs, and apparently he also doesn't believe Julia Gillard when she says, even publicly, she's not interested in taking over the top spot.
So what should have been a very normal day started to get quite tense. They arranged to meet each other at 7 o'clock. None of this, though, made it to the media.
But in the press gallery, two ABC journalists were picking up signals of their own.
These things start so innocuously. There was a coffee between Chris Uhlmann and a power broker.
In the course of that, and we'd only just started the conversation about nothing in particular, his whole demeanour changed. He leaned into me and said, "Could we win with Julia?" And I said, "I didn't think that was an option anymore." And he jumped up from his seat, said, "Look, thanks for the coffee," which he'd had 2 mouthfuls of, and sped off down the hallway. And I thought, now that is an extremely unusual thing.
Chris and I hit the phones again, another round of phone calls to all the players, the power brokers. No one was willing to say too much, but you could piece together little bit by little bit that something was happening.
About 6:30 in the evening, I received a phone call from Mark Simkin at the ABC saying that something was up. I necessarily sort of fobbed him off. Chris Uhlmann had the same story, obviously, they were working together, and then my phone started to ring a lot.
When he finally gets onto one of his contacts and starts one of those stupid yes-no things which happen sometimes in journalism.
A rule-in, rule-out game. A yes-no answer was all this person would say. I would ask a question. Is there a move to oust Kevin Rudd? Yes.
So at around about 10 to 7, both he and I believed that we had enough news to break the story that there was a serious move against Kevin Rudd, and it was happening at that very moment.
Literally sprinted up the stairs, bumped literally into Lachlan Harris, the press secretary to Kevin Rudd, who was in the gallery trying to... What's going on? Why are you racing? Oh, you'll have to watch, mate. You'll have to watch.
Prime Minister's office was watching the ABC News because by the time when Mark said that, it was obvious what was coming.
The ABC has learnt that senior ministers and factional power brokers are in talks and counting numbers for a potential move against Kevin Rudd. Here's our chief political correspondent, Mark Simkin.
The rumblings within the Labor Party are getting louder tonight. Several government sources have told the ABC that MPs are being sounded out about a possible move against the Prime Minister.
Surprises when Mark Simpkin broke on 7 p.m. He didn't tell us anything we didn't know. It was probably surprising that it turned up so strongly and so aggressively on the 7 p.m. news.
The meeting started on time at 7 o'clock, and that's it was the lead story on the ABC that night. So I imagine neither of them have ever seen the yarn.
The news broke, Kevin Rudd's enemies were scheming. Over dinner, Bill Shorten organised the revolt. Just as the Challenger tapped the Prime Minister on the shoulder.
Earlier this evening. Hi, folks. Earlier this evening, Julia Gillard came to see me and has requested a ballot for the leadership of the Labor Party. As a result of that request, I will be writing to the Secretary of the Caucus to convene a special meeting of the caucus at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Neither. Party has ever spoken at any great length about what happened in the meeting, and I certainly never asked. My impression, though, was that it certainly wasn't. No one had made up their mind before the meeting what the outcome of the meeting would be. In fact, in some ways, I wonder whether or not that ABC story didn't influence the events of that night. I mean, once the story was being reported that something, although it was pretty vague, but something was happening, to step back from that would have been difficult. So you do in some ways wonder whether or not the ABC played some part in the events that unfolded that evening.